Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, and I'm joined by apparently my twin today, Dr. Troy Fox. I see we both got the memo for the dark blue shirt.
We did. The only difference between you and me right now is I've got about 3 inches of snow on the ground here in Kansas, and I saw that Florida was supposed to be 85 today. So yeah, if I say I hate you, just take it in a loving way. I hate you. I hate the snow here in Kansas right now because I like to be outside and enjoying myself. And it was a frosty mess at 6:45 this morning when I went into the office. So
yeah, sorry, Troy, I don't miss that.
I don't blame you.
But
we did wear the same shirt.
We did. And I'm dealing with something else today. You can probably see I'm in a temporary studio today because our new studio is under construction, and I'm excited to get moved back into there hopefully next week. So pardon me if I get excited. The little table I'm on right now kind of wobbles. So it's not an earthquake.
I was just going to say, it looks like you're having an earthquake down there in Florida right now.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of
what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to do something a little bit different, but along the lines, if you guys tuned into our last podcast, we talked a little bit about inflation and ways to kind of inflation proof your practice and some of the steps that you might need to go through. Mm-hmm. We kind of generally glossed over that. I would say we didn't get real in depth, but we did give you some ideas because I know a lot of people are asking questions, and I had multiple emails asking me the same question. And so we did that. So I have a question this week, or really a topic that we want to talk about that ties into this. It wasn't from an email. This came from up here, so this could be dangerous, right?
Uh-oh.
So
watch out, everybody.
I want to talk a little bit about how we stand on top of the rock and what our thought processes are. In other words, what do we think about, especially in unsure or uncertain times, when we're standing alone on top of that rock as an entrepreneur? Now, some of you are associate docs that are listening to this right now, and you haven't taken that step, or you don't want to, and you're fine being where you're at, and that's fine too. But those of you that are the entrepreneur, you're the guy that took all the risks to open the practice. You're the guy that took all the risks so far as the expenses and expenditures and all that. If you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this right now, we want to talk a little bit. And I think we just talked right before we started recording this, and Dr. Perusich gave a principle that I thought was fantastic. I want to throw out a statistic real quick. 68% of you by poll, I saw this actually on the Today Show this morning. I'm not a huge Today Show fan, so don't throw rocks at me if you don't like the Today Show. But they had a psychologist on there, and they'd done a large scale study. They found that 68% of Americans right now are more stressed than they've ever been. And a lot of it's about money, finances. Here's the big third one: future of their kids. So we are worried about our future right now, whether it's financial, emotional, whether it's our family members or whatever. So as that stress comes, I think that also plays into business. I don't think there's any way that we walk away from that and go, my business is immune to this. It's only here. So 68% of us are struggling with this. That's almost 70%. But when it comes to entrepreneurs, sometimes we get stuck. And here's where we get stuck. We hit rough waters and we become paralyzed. All of a sudden, we're not quite sure what to do. And so we hang on to the status quo for dear life. That's kind of like going down with the ship sometimes. Sometimes maybe it's not, but in a lot of cases, we have to expand our mindset. So I want Dr. Perusich to give us his principle that he talked about. And I think it is fantastic. And I think it gives you a good idea of maybe where you're at, and you can categorize yourself based off of this simple principle.
So, Troy, I love statistics. So you're 68%. People are anxious and nervous about where things are right now. I get it. But that also means 32% aren't.
Yes.
32% aren't.
Correct.
And I'm going to throw out this idea. It's called the 40-60 principle or rule. And I liken it to you're lifting weights and you're bench pressing, for example, and you're popping off the reps, and all of a sudden you get to about 14, 15 reps, and you start slowing down, and all of a sudden it's like somebody added extra 100 pounds to the barbell, and you get to that point where you can just barely push it up. Here's the cool thing. It's at that point that your brain's telling you that you're fatigued, that science shows that you've only used 40% of your muscle power. So even though you're feeling fatigued, you still have 60% more muscle power left to use. And it's kind of this way that the body helps protect some of your power, fight or flight response kind of idea. But those that tap into that 60% that's left over, that's where success lies. And that's probably where those 32% people from your stat lie. Yeah. They've probably figured out a way to tap into that 60%. And if you ever played sports, for example, you remember, you're in a game, and it's late in the fourth quarter or whatever, and you're starting to get tired, but you're 7 points down, and coach puts you in and says, I want you to, run 80 yards and catch a pass for a touchdown. You find the energy if you're one of those 60%ers, because you're able to move into that 60% as you need to, because that's where real success lies. So in times of trouble, in times of turmoil, and I'm going to use your term, if you're on rough seas right now, which it may feel like it's rough seas, what do you do to save the ship? You turn it straight into the wind and you hit it head on. And that's what we have to do with our practices right now. Yeah. You just have to go full throttle right now.
So let me talk about that for just a second. There's a principle that I use, and I didn't create this. If you know anything about special operators in the United States, a lot of them like to use this term, embrace the suck. And what that means is they, as an average person, here's what I'm going to say about my practice. Oh man, that sucks to have to go out and if you don't like the word sucks, sorry about that. I mean, we're using it to a means to an end, but that sucks that I have to go out and promote my practice. That sucks that I have to stay after hours because I have a couple of patients that don't get off till blah, blah, blah time. And I really wanted to just go home and veg on the couch. That sucks that I actually have to go in and evaluate my office and my staff to make sure that I'm cutting edge all the time. Right. Embrace the suck. So here's how it also falls into it. That's one fork. Here's the other fork. The other fork has to do with change in business and change in your practice. Yep. Sometimes you need to make a change in your practice for future endeavor. In other words, as we look at, say, and I'm going to use this example because you and I talk about this a lot, insurance versus cash practice. Our mantra has been for quite a while that we believe that the cash practice is a more stable practice. Now, we're not asking you to jump off a cliff and put a sign on your door tomorrow. We no longer accept insurance. Please don't. That's not what we're asking you to do. But what we're saying is a cash practice is a very stable practice. And when people pay money out of pocket, a reasonable amount of money out of pocket for services, they tend to appreciate it. Whereas sometimes when they're on insurance, what they look at is it's an unneeded expense. Insurance is paying for it. I got to pay this copay. I'm not really, interested in it, especially if I run out of insurance and now I have to pay cash. I'm not accustomed to that. And so we look at some of those are just a few small factors. But the point I'm bringing to that is sometimes we're afraid to jump off the insurance train. We're afraid that we're going to get hurt when we do. So sometimes it's more than just to embrace the suck. What were the two things I said before? I said that people are afraid, right? There's a little bit of fear factor sometimes to make change. And the other one's pain. Fear and pain are what drive us sometimes in the opposite direction. Right. Wouldn't you agree that in a lot of cases, that's what keeps us on the stoop that we're on and keeps us from moving forward or jumping off that stoop?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there's such a fear of failure when there's tumultuous times. It's a hard word to say. Yeah. In times of trouble, there's such a fear of failure that I think it's natural to want to stay in that 40% because it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, the winners, the people that find the opportunities right now to really succeed, and we saw this happen during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So many of our members had almost all of our members had record 2 years during that time. Why? Because they stayed in that 60% as much as they could. And instead of backing off and hiding in the 4%, if you will, they amped it up. And so right now, this is the time when you want to amp up. Now, I don't mean amp up your expenses and those kind of things. You do have to be careful there because of inflation. But look for ways to, as you said, Troy, change your practice. What can you remodel? Can you remodel your expenditures? Can you get by with one less staff person by efficiencyizing? Yes, I made up a word.
I love it.
By making
it whatever that is. Yeah,
make it more efficient.
Your new word's hard to say.
You remember my wife used to do that all the time. She always made up words.
Oh yeah.
And you make your practice more efficient. And so maybe you don't need as many people and you cut overhead a little bit. Right. Or, maybe you just really start to amp up your social media marketing and your involvement in the community. We're the doctors that make people feel good.
Right.
And that's what people want and need right now. They want to feel good. So get out there and tell them the feel good story of chiropractic.
Yeah. And here's what's interesting about this is as we wrap this up in this discussion, here's where you're going to go. You're going to go to the counterintuitive right now. Counterintuitive is, so intuitive says, gee, I need to batten down the hatches, tighten everything down. Counterintuitive sometimes, and I find myself in a counterintuitive state a lot of times in turmoil. I go, okay, how can I shake this whole thing up and make it work for me?
Right.
Here's what our clients found. And so I'm going to share this with you and then you guys do with it what you want. Here's what our clients found. Our clients found that in times of turmoil over the last 2 years, that advisement, I don't want to call it coaching because people have a bad taste in their mouth sometimes from coaching for chiropractic. I don't know what you want to call it, whatever it is, an advisor, a business advisor, a chiropractic advisor, whatever you want to call it. Those folks that had a coach, Michael Jordan, he had a coach. Tiger Woods, he had several coaches, every good athlete's got coaches behind him because somebody needs to stand aside and look at him and go, if you change this one thing, you probably do a lot better. And that's sometimes what we do is we see the small things when we work with people. That is what I recommend, is that coaching or advisement during times of turmoil sometimes help unlock keys to success that you wouldn't yourself be able to see because you can't see the big picture because you got the blinders on in your practice right now.
Right. I've got a good friend, just to piggyback on that. I've got a good friend who's a professional golfer. In fact, he's out on the tour right now. He has a coach for his putting. He has a coach for his short iron game. He's got a different coach for his long iron game. He's got a coach for his driver. He's got a coach for ball placement, and he's got a mental coach.
Wow.
That's
a lot, but
specialized coaching in all those little areas. And we need those too. You and I grew up in chiropractic on coaching, and it catapulted our practices.
Let me ask you this though. If you're a golfer and you just heard all that, were you like, oh, that's disgusting, I wouldn't want to have 6 coaches? No, you know what I thought? The first thing I thought as a golfer, that's awesome. I wish I could have 6 coaches because I'd be so good right now at golf. I'd still suck, but I'd be less sucky than I am.
And he's got a great chiropractor.
He definitely does. You think about that though. What was your gut feeling when you heard that? Your gut feeling was that's awesome. And maybe you thought, well, what would that cost? But he's a professional golfer, so he could afford that, right? They have expenses just like we have expenses. Here
was my thought. My thought was that's why he's on the tour and why I'm not.
And why I'm a Muni player. Exactly. That, and he's probably super talented. We both know he's super talented already, but here's the crazy thing. So as chiropractors, a lot of times we got the pushback. Oh no, my practice, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to pay extra money to get that. How am I going to recoup that? When we see practices grow, they don't just grow the amount that it costs for you to be a member of CATS, they grow exponentially. And then people see it and go, gosh, this is not, it's like having a life insurance policy or any kind of insurance policy, kind of like when you guys took boards. Some of you did it on your own, and kudos to you guys that did. I took Irene Gold when I took boards, and you know why I did it? I called it the whole time. I called my dad because I was a broke chiropractic student like everybody else is. Called my dad and said, Dad, I need to take boards, but I need this review. And he said, well, what's it cost and why are you taking it? And I said, it's an insurance policy to guarantee that I get through boards, because I think I could do it on my own, but this is the insurance. He goes, absolutely, son. And he sends me the money. And my dad isn't a wealthy man, but he sent me the money and he said, I want to see you be successful. And, the truth of the matter was, I got some coaching from Irene Gold and I breezed through boards. Now, could I have done it on my own? Maybe. But when I look at my practice, I always think, what could I be doing a little bit differently, or what could I add, something small that doesn't, without spending $80,000 to buy a new piece of equipment, what can I do to make my practice better? So that's kind of the point where us entrepreneurs sometimes see the value in coaching. I've always had a coach. I don't think since 1995, I've had a coach. And it's 2022. So I've had a coach for 27 years of my life.
I've had a coach all my life for something or another.
So here's what's crazy.
Sure.
That's half my life. I'm 54 years old. I've had a coach. Now, that's not including high school sports and all that. I'm talking about business coach. Right. I've had a business coach for 27 years of my life now.
I love it.
That's
why you're successful.
And I see it as valuable. So those of you that are on the fence about this isn't a sales pitch. It's just like, okay, here's how I think. And I think the way I think is right. And so do other entrepreneurs that are in that 40%. We take some chances sometimes. And hey, if it doesn't work out, if the coach that you're working with doesn't get you results, fire them, get a new one.
Right.
But if the coach is helping you and you're just resistant, you may want to put the mirror towards you and go, oh, I'm the one that's resisting right now. I'm just not doing what my coach is telling me to do, because sometimes we do that. So
here's a great idea. If you want to find out how to turn the ship into the wind during these tumultuous times, all you have to do is go to katsconsultants.com, top right corner of the front page, click on schedule a consult. You'll go right to my calendar. Let's talk. We do these for free. We just enjoy talking to chiropractors, and if we can have a great conversation and meet somebody new or meet an old friend again, great. I love it. If we can figure out that we can help you, great, fantastic. The choice to be successful is up to you, not up to us. So we don't force anybody into anything. And if you've got a question, and there's lots of questions right now with this economy and things, if you've got a question you want to hear us banter around on one of these podcasts, send it to Troy at katsconsultants.com. We'll throw your question on air, and we don't use names or anything like that. So don't be shy about throwing it out there, because if you've got the question, there's probably a whole bunch of other people that have the exact same question. So it's good for everybody.
Yeah. And if you want to be on the podcast with us when you ask that question, you can request that as well. We've not done that yet, but I thought, it'd be kind of fun to have somebody come on our podcast with us, just jump on and be involved in the podcast if you have a question. So if you're a brave heart and you want to come on with us sometime, we would enjoy it. It would be fun.
There you go. That would be fun. Kind of like a call-in show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, Troy, thanks for being here today. And to all of you out there, thanks for listening to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by Kats Consultants, as always, helping chiropractors keep their pulse on success. So from all of us at Kats Consultants, make it an amazing day.